In his book, Illustrations for Biblical Preaching, Grand Rapids Press, 1993, Michael P. Green remembers an old Jack Benny skit that illustrates how money can become more important to us than anything else. Jack's walking along. Suddenly an armed robber approached him and ordered, "Your money or your life?" There's this long pause. Jack doesn't do anything. The robber patiently says, "Well?" Jack says, "Don't rush me. I'm thinking about it." It's not easy. In real life, Jack was a very, very generous man. The look around is obvious that those of you here did not win $1.2 billion. The lottery kind of reminds me of a television show long ago. It was on Wednesday evenings, about 10 o'clock. Some of you might remember it. It's a familiar show. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Y'all remember that show? Well, today, USA Today recently said, everybody wants to be a millionaire. In an article entitled Everyone Wants a Shot at Being a Millionaire, John F. Westfall, in his book, Enough's Enough, it was on for the press in 1993, makes the comment, "We are a country drowning in millionaires." Well, I ain't even treading water. In fact, a new survey found that there are 13.61 million households that have a net worth of $1 million or more, and that doesn't count their primary residence and property. Isn't that astounding? That's more than 10% of the household in the USA. Unreal. So the U.S. is definitely the country with most millionaires. And according to Wikipedia, as of October 2020, there were 614 billionaires in the United States. I ain't one of them either. Never before in the history of our country has so much money been made so quickly by so many people. I got to correct it. It's 615 billionaires the country has on Friday night. Well, on one hand, it may not be wrong to want to be a millionaire, but it can be extremely dangerous. You know, it's amazing how many things have a warning label on them today. No matter what you pick up, there's some kind of warning on it. I read warning labels that have alerted me to defective car seats, inhaling fumes at gas stations, flush off a cigarette, sniff the pipe, opening hot radiators, drinking diet soft drinks, smoking cigarettes, wearing seatbelts, all kinds of labels. Let me ask, when was the last time you saw a warning label on a $10 bill? Or a stock certificate? A bank deposit slip? You put on a credit card. It could be hazardous to your health. Sometimes I think there should be one there. Because there really is a danger to money and material possessions. Now, I know people don't like to have money issues preached about. If I was to preach the Bible as much as there is about money in it, I probably have to preach every other Sunday on the issue of money. And you may not realize it, but out of the Lord's 38 parables, 16 of them deal with man's relationship to money and material things. So it must be a kind of important issue here. So we're looking this morning at a parable about a man God called a fool. I'm sure you all heard my dad say, "A fool and his money are soon parted." It's about a parable about a man who was a fool, not because he would part with his money, but because he would not part with his money. This man was a fool because he had money, but because money had him, really. This man eventually died with a cancer of covetousness. We learn from this man why truly the world is not enough. There's some tremendously valuable lessons we can learn from this man in the parable that will help us to rightly relate to money, to make sure money is rightly related to us. It's really interesting to me that this passage would appear on a lectionary calendar the weekend when the lottery was the third highest in the United States. God works things out in mysterious ways, doesn't he? $1.2 billion lottery? We need to talk about money. Maybe he's trying to warn us about making sure we have our priorities straight for the next lottery. So of all the gospel writers, Luke offers the harshest critique of the wealthy. For example, a parable about the rich fool and about the parable about the rich man and Lazarus are unique to the gospel, to his gospel. Among the four evangelists, Luke also probably came from the most advantaged social background. Traditionally, he was a physician who Paul mentions in Colossians 4:14 ties in quite naturally the educated style or Greek in which the third gospel and Acts are written, as well as the wealth of cultural knowledge and detail found in Acts. Luke's critique of wealth thus may be an insider's view, if you would, one who moved in such circles and knew the pitfalls all too well. Background for our story is an incident that occurred in Galilee as Jesus was teaching to a large crowd. The young man calls out in the crowd, kind of like Ducey in his president's briefings. He says, "Rabbi, tell my brother to divide the inheritance of our father." Now, Jewish law clearly described that at the death of a father, the eldest son receives 2/3 of the inheritance. The younger son, 1/3. It is obviously that a younger son who is complaining about the inherent unfairness of it all. Doesn't divide siblings more than have divided an estate. Some of us may have been there, maybe we are there now. So it was then, and so it is now. Jesus refused to get involved in this petty family squabble. And he very tersely let the subject know it. He says, "Man, who appointed me a judge?" He wasn't saying that kindly. He was putting that guy in his place. Saying, "No, I'm not here for that. That's not my bailiwick." The word "man" here was used very derogatory towards him. Jesus was concerned, however, with the larger implications of preoccupation with things of the world. He said, "Beware of greed, for life does not consist of things possessed. The sum total of a person's life is more than their financial portfolio." Then he illustrates this point by telling a story. There was once a man who had been broken a run of prosperity. Today's language, he had a successful play on a commodities market. So prosperous did he become that his barns could not hold all his crops. His solution was to tear them down and build better and bigger barns to hold his financial security, to keep it in hand. Then he'd sit back and genuinely enjoy life. His philosophy was eat, drink, and be merry. We've all said that at some point in time in our lives, haven't we? Are we doing that? No. Truth be told, we hear the story, we find ourselves rather envious of this man. A financially successful man. We see him as very savvy and wise. Yet Jesus concluded the story by saying that this man was a fool. Jesus before us this morning is then, what did this man do wrong? To answer the question, we must understand that this is not a parable about money. It's a parable about values and what's important in life. People do crazy things when it's concerning money. Jesus told about such a person. Jesus didn't call him crazy, he just called him foolish. Most of us know Jesus' parables almost by heart. The ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop, said Jesus. Is there anything wrong with that? No, not so far. As far as we know, the man came by the wealth honestly. He didn't cheat anybody. He didn't lie. He didn't steal. He wasn't corrupted. Jesus didn't say the rich man was a bad man. Only he was a fool. There's nothing wrong with having money. Like 1 Timothy 6:10 warns against the love of money. Many people read that verse wrong. It's not the money that's the issue. It's the love of money which is condemned. There's nothing wrong with having money. In fact, the first foolish thing you can do with money is deny its importance. There's some things only money can buy. Braces for the kids' teeth, good education, a dependable car to drive back and forth to work, piece of clothes to wear to church. Personal money in this country is in a bad way. One of the things money can buy is insurance, for example. The man in Jesus' parable was rich. There's nothing wrong with that. I wish I had that problem. Some of us are having difficulty just getting by. In fact, someone said people call it take-home pay. There's no place you can go except home with it. So let's relate to that. It's tough nowadays. According to some experts, it's likely to get tougher. There's nothing wrong with wishing for more money. In fact, some of us need to maybe give our attention a little deeper to our finances. Did you know that 85% out of 100 Americans have less than $250 in their savings account when they reach the age 65? Did you know that the event, the loss of income or unexpected major expense, the average American family is 3 to 6 weeks away from bankruptcy? The man in Jesus' parable was not foolish because he had money. Money is important in the world. The rich man was foolish for not having money, foolish not for having money, but because he didn't know what to do with his money. That brings the second foolish thing you can do with your money. Just keep it for yourself. The rich man thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns. I'll build bigger barns. And there I'll store all my grain and my goods. Then I'll say to myself, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take it easy. Eat, drink, and be merry. Sounds surprisingly good to most of us. This man just decided to live a good life. Surround himself with pleasant things and take it easy. Jesus doesn't condemn you for eating and drinking and being merry. Not even being rich. Friend of mine is called foolish for building bigger barns. One of the story is that this entrepreneur was planning to store more of his wealth than he needed to be able to eat, drink, and be merry. You look again at the words of the story. The man says, what shall I do, for I have nowhere to store my crops? Not true. He has barns. He has a place to put that stuff. His problem is that his harvest was so great, this present storage facility does not hold anymore. It's got all the grain it can take. So he declares, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll store my grain. The only thing can I eat, drink, and be merry. Again, not true. He already has ample goods. He does not have to live in the moment like most of us. He has barns for the future. It may not be as he would like. He has plenty to eat, drink, and be merry. Man already has enough wealth to enjoy shalom for years. He has that sense of well-being and security because God has graciously blessed his land with fruitfulness. Fortune has smiled on him. And he's been able to accumulate a sizable portion of the world's goods. The point of the story is not that there's something wrong with amassing some wealth, but that he was intending to store it all by building bigger barns and storing it. He's called foolish because he did not recognize his wealth had brought him happiness, and then he could do the same for others. If only he were to instead of locking it up in bigger barns. His sin was not that he had become wealthy, that he wanted to hoard all his wealth. His sin was not that he ate, drank, and was merry, but he was withholding the means for others to do the same. He had become a bottleneck, so to speak, in the flow of shalom, blessing to others. The story, so understood, is not a teaching condemning the foolishness of gathering wealth. It's another parable which condemns the refusal to share the wealth we do not need. It warns us about short-sightedness, a failure to be a good custodian of the abundance that God entrusts to us. What is Scrooge? Think about it. I wonder if Dickens had the man in this story in mind when he was making up the character of Ebenezer Scrooge. Ever make a connection there? Don't you see the man in this story counted his coins alone by candlelight in the middle of the night, clad in his nightshirt and nightcap? Oh boy! Don't you see him strolling through his barns over and over and over again, just to see all the wealth he had piled up? It's Ebenezer, out and out. In this brief story, Jesus painted a striking character of someone whose whole life was tied up in bonds and livestock and all the rest of his barnyard possessions. That brief story was Jesus' rather curious reply to the two men who came to him with a domestic squabble over family inheritance. The rich man made the same mistake that many of us will probably make some along the line. He assumed that all he needed for a contented life were a lot of pleasant things. Wrong. Nobody ever found genuine happiness in mere things. Happiness comes from relationships. Would you rather have a $100,000 Mercedes in the driveway, or a loving husband in the living room, or a husband, a loving wife? Which would you rather have? Watch how you answer that question. There are many people who have only money, and they have no joy. As I read this parable, something you can't help but notice, that not does he hoard his wealth, but he also talks only to himself. He has taken responsibility for himself. His words reflect complete self-satisfaction. He addressed himself as soul, self, living being. He's a master of his own identity. His life is his own. He has made it a good one. It isn't by accident he refers to I and my 11 times in 3 short verses. He's a self-centered fool. His view of life doesn't reach beyond his own nose. But such self-centeredness is indicative of all materialism. If reality consists of only things, one's own self is surely the ultimate thing. That's exactly and precisely the point of the parable. His self, his soul, is not his own to address. To read about a couple in Florida, married for 21 years. They're getting a divorce. Turn the Summit calls for the woman to be able to maintain a reasonable lifestyle. Pull on those words, reasonable lifestyle. Since they listed their assets at $100 million, here's what the judge decided. She could fly to New York once a month to get her hair fixed. She received $2,600 a month to eat out. and should receive a liberal expense account for gasoline, oil, and maintenance of her $100,000 Mercedes. In addition, she received each month, now get this, each month, $10,446 for vacations. You wouldn't love this one. $6,450 for clothing. Wouldn't that make you happy, ladies? $1,592 for groceries. I love this one. $1,440 for local beauty parlors. That's the heavy-duty hair. $1,407 miscellaneous. $171 a month for pet care. Here's the real top one. $20 a month for church and charities. Yeah, don't that drop your jaw. Is there something wrong with this picture here? $100 million, and she's giving $20 a month to the church and charities. I believe God's going to call her what? A fool. Wealth is for sharing, and not $600 for clothes. Sure, there's satisfaction in the little luxuries of life, but not as much as being involved in something great and lasting. The first foolish thing you can do with money is deny its value. Second you can do is hoard it to yourself. And of course, the most foolish thing you can do with money is allow it to become your God. Henry Ford once asked an associate about his life goals. The man replied that his goal was to make $1 million. A few days later, Henry Ford walked into the office, gave his man a pair of glasses made out of $2 silver. He said, "Here, put these on." The guy put them on and said, "Now what do you see?" He goes, "Nothing. The dollars ran away." Of course, that's the lesson I want to teach you. Yeah. His only goal were dollars. He'd miss out hopes of great opportunities. He should invest himself in serving others, not simply making money. And that's the great secret of life that far too many people fail to discover. Money is important, no question about that. But money is only a means by which to reach higher goals. Service to others. Obedience to God. God comes to rich man, he says, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Who then will get what you have prepared for yourself?" The answer is clear. Rich man put his trust in things. God leave these things behind. Remember the old adage, you can't take it with you? 3 foolish things you can do with money. Deny its importance, hoard it to yourself, and make it your God. Earlier this century, a man gave $100,000 to build a college in Liberia. In the 1940s, the college had grown. Thousands of young Africans had been educated there. When the University of College's founding, the administration decided it was time to say thank you to that man for this gift. It took months of them to track him down. See, the man had lost everything in the crash of 1929. He was living in a little house now in Chicago on the south side. Twice he refused to see representatives from the college. But he finally agreed to receive them. At their insistence, he was flown to Africa for the celebration. As he looked on the campus filled with hundreds of students, he whispered to the college president, "The only thing I have kept is what I gave away." Wise man. Only what we give away is ours forever. God is the final arbitrator of one's life. So precisely this self, this soul, this life that God requires of in the night. His tragedy is that he neglected the only part of existence he had to take with him in eternity. His own self. This is the tragedy of every materialistic outlook. Whether it be that of the individual, or be that of the church. Seeking to save life